Okay, joining me first on today's episode is Joe Juniper. Joe is the co-owner and winemaker at Vermillion Valley Vineyards, the second largest vineyard in Ohio. And with vineyards in close proximity to Lake Erie, Joe's become an expert in managing through extreme temperatures and precipitation variances, including mastering innovative cold pruning practices. I'm just going to say you have very cold winters in Ohio. And so you're definitely adapting your pruning strategy. It's not going to be found in a textbook anywhere. Please welcome Joe. Joe, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Fritz. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great to finally meet you when I spoke at the Wine Grower Conference in Ohio early this year. You know, I've been following you on, I'd say, your vineyard journey, and I'm really impressed with what you're doing. And I have to say, sometimes I see posts that you make and I'm like, what is Joe doing? I mean, this is not normal stuff that you see in California or Texas or Virginia. Before we dive into the innovative pruning methods that I've been observing in your site, can you just tell us a little bit more about your background and your vineyard, and then we'll dive a little deeper into your vineyard design and your pruning.
Yeah, absolutely, Fritz. I got into the wine industry when I was 13 years old. I'm actually an inner city kid. I'm not a farm kid by nature. I got into it when I was 13 years old, just simply out of a love of plants. Didn't have any, real greenhouses or orchards or anything in a close enough bicycle proximity to me. But I did have a couple of vineyards. So started working in the vineyard on the front side of everything that goes into wine production, picking, pruning, weeding in the vineyard. And had a lot of really great mentors along the way. Started at Vermillion Valley Vineyards at the inception of the wine company in 2009. And Dr. David H. Benzine, world-renowned botanist, was one of the partners at the time. And fast forward from 2009 to 2013, my wife and I became operating partners of Vermillion Valley. And great mentorship along the way has really created our strategies within the vineyard. They stepped away from the partnership in 16 or 17. And ultimately we were able to take on new partners that really allowed us to explode our business. So now we sit at roughly 120 acres, almost exclusively Vitis Vinifera here on the south shore of Lake Erie. We sit at the southernmost tip of all the Great Lakes, which means we have Lake Erie acts somewhat as a radiator for us in the winter. So if you're more than 10 miles off of the lake, you're probably not growing Vitis Vinifera. However, we still get very, very cold throughout the winters. It's not uncommon to see negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know if your international viewership, how that converts to Celsius, but I'm sure you'll make that adjustment.
Sure.
However, during the growing season, we see upwards of 3,400, in some cases 3,500 growing degree days. So what that does for us is it really eliminates the ability to use, some of the cold hardy Minnesota cold hardy varieties, that are producing great quality wines, but we get a little bit ripe in this part of the world for those, even though we get very cold and rather, perhaps a little bit too cold for some Vinifera varieties.
Can you explain for the listener here, kind of your concept and how you prune your vines? Because you're not going for a 20 plus year trunk and 20 plus year cordon and spur pruning structure. So how do your practices differ and your strategy differ in your area?
Yeah, absolutely. I say ESCA, you type, those trunk diseases and the several others. Those are first world luxury problems. It's not a third world Ohio problem. So our biggest issue in this part of the world, we talked about the extreme cold winters. So we get a lot of winter damage, not only just in buds, but also in trunks, cordons, all the way down. We do hill up. We have to hill up every year. Everything that we produce is grafted. And so we have to make sure that we're maintaining a good, healthy graft. And so long as you have a good, healthy graft, we can renew everything else. We can build the vine from the ground up as often as we need to. Hopefully not too often. Otherwise, you're losing money.
Well, the reason I mention that is because I do what I call a bonus cane pruning system, where in a spur prune cordon on a variety that's got low yield or less fruitful on its lower bud position, sometimes we'll bring up a selective cane from a spur, from an upper level spur position, and lay it down on, let's say, the first set of catch wires in a VSP system. And we'll keep that. I just call it a bonus cane because it's there for extra fruit. It's not a vigor diversion or a kicker cane. And we'll leave that through the system. And so I wanted to mention also to the listener that I have a video that covers what that bonus cane system looks like on a spur prune system and a few other scenarios. And that's typically something I have within my academy for members, but I'm going to make that available because I think people are going to want to see that. So the grower guide video is going to be available to the listener here. I'll open it up until March 31st. It's called Young Vine Training and Vineyard Innovations, and you can get a link to access that content for free in the show notes. So if you're listening and you want to see what those bonus canes look like, you can check that out, and we'll have that in the show notes. But Joe, I want to get back to your system here because although it reminds me of some that I've used, it's truly what we consider, the term in Cornell University that my good friend Tim Martinson used to throw around and a few other experts was spare parts viticulture. I mean,
Yes.
You're really producing fruit, but you're thinking about what's my next trunk going to come from? What's my next spur going to come from? And where's my next cordon going to be developed when we get a freeze here? So there's the theory that different age wood has variable levels of cold hardiness. That's been thrown out there. What do you think about that?
That's not a theory, Fritz. That's not a theory. That is absolute. Older wood is more susceptible wood. It's more susceptible to winter injury and crown gall infestation. That's not a theory, in my opinion.
Can you walk us through how you design your vineyard, your trellis, in terms of cordon height, wires, how that system looks like, what your vine spacing is, row spacing, and then just walk us through the first 3 years or so to get that vine into production. I think this will be fascinating to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've planted over 100 acres in the last 5-6 years, both for ourselves and for some of our neighbors, which is for Eastern U.S. is quite ambitious. And we've developed new strategies in doing so. If you look at our older vineyards, they're a little bit more conventional. 9-foot row spacing by 5-foot vine spacing. Fruiting wire at say 30 inches, 32 inches above grade. Our new vineyards, number one, we're planting more on riparia. Love it, hate it. We have, plenty of moisture in this part of the world. We're not having to irrigate these vines. This is a lower vigor root stock. So, going on riparia mostly, trying to de-vigor these vines. Cause like I said before, vigor is a plenty in this part of the world. So going on riparia, picking our scion, 9-foot spacings. We still need 9-foot spacings regardless because we do mound up. We are moving a lot of soil every year, and you need a little elbow room to be able to move that soil and bring it back down.